The Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Buddy Manning here. Welcome to Aftermath of Celtics Bulls. Noah Dalzell alongside, and crazy finish over the last 5 minutes. Celtics drew within 3 before 3 technicals on them and a slew of Bulls baskets inside. Down them in this one, 117-108. And I had them at 18-9 after a weird play where Pritchard, I think, wrapped up Ayo DeSumo for a jump ball. I thought they gave the Bulls a timeout or something, which is why Mazzulla went right on the court. But Mazzulla gets teed up. They go to the jump ball. Jalen gets teed up. And then moments later, Tatum ended up getting teed up. And to close the game, Joe storms the court, which I'm actually interested to see what the league's going to have to say about that, going after the refs there. And calm Mazzulla 10-15 minutes later addressed why he did that after the game.
I just hadn't seen them in a while, so just a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I wasn't sure I was going to see them before the holiday, and I just can't let a moment go by to where you wish someone, just the best, to them and theirs and their families.
So Kristaps Porzingis went on to say in the locker room they lost control of things there a little bit. Tempers flared, and it obviously cost them the game. They completely let go of the rope after that happened.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think this is a recurring problem for this team. They've actually been pretty good about, playing through missed shots, playing through bad calls or controversial calls or whatnot. Tonight, all of that went to the wayside. You saw them really lose focus once the barrage of technicals began. You saw the defense really take a toll when the shots weren't going in. So a lot of the things that have made this team a winning basketball team over the last few seasons, you didn't really see that down the stretch in this game, and it's out of character. I don't think it's cause for concern as a one-off. Certainly, if we now see this happen multiple times, then it is. But yeah, this was one of those classic cases where actually Joe getting a tech went totally in the opposite direction, because we've seen it the other side where he gets a tech, he gets kind of fired up, and it actually leads the Celtics to play really well. I think not this most recent time in Washington, but the previous time. And he talked about, could you feel the change in the game? This was the opposite, where it really led to frustration.
It changed the other way, yeah.
Exactly.
And he said, when asked about why he complained there, that he can't go on the court. And it seemed like he didn't even say anything.
He didn't,
went on to explain that he said Joe did nothing, and then the refs threatened to give him a tech for saying that Joe did nothing. So confusion there on Jalen's part, too. I guess you seem to think that he wanted the jump ball, Jalen did in that spot, because I'm still confused why they got so fired up over that
my
incident.
understanding of that sequence was that the jump ball, Jalen had his hand on it first, and so Joe was saying that it should have been a Jalen jump ball over a Payton jump ball, obviously a preferable situation. But the pool report post-game actually said that Joe didn't say anything wrong. It was specifically that he was on the floor. And then everything that we heard from Jalen post-game, I think that account holds up against the pool report. So nothing crazy was said here. But I think, probably the right thing to do is after one tech to stop the bleeding, and I think everybody expressed the frustration. And that Tatum kind of captured it well post-game, that it's going to happen. You're playing 82 games in a year. Like, there are going to be nights where you don't control your temper. And I think, from what it sounds like, I don't want to, pick a side, but it sounds a little bit like the referees were happy to give out techs tonight in a way that probably they shouldn't, and so it's a little bit of a middle ground. But yeah, if you go back and watch that fourth quarter, that was a turning point in this game.
Porzingis thought the misses contributed to the frustration too in this game. A brutal three-point shooting performance for the Celtics here did them in as well. And an emotional game with Jaylen Brown, his mother being, a victim of a robbery, along with assistant coach Emile Jefferson as well. So that served as a backdrop to this game as well over the last 3, 4, 5 games here. Jalen pretty emotional talking about it after the game as well, and obviously the first time that we're seeing the team since that happened there. So a lot of emotion in this game, an atypical performance after a bad call or a technical against them, which we hadn't seen from them this year. Maybe a past version of the Celtics collapses after a situation like that. So I don't think it's that moment specifically that worries you here. It was just strange to see Joe, as you said, usually in control of how they're trying to manipulate the officials or their own energy, completely losing it himself and going after the refs again. I'm interested to see what ends up happening out of that, because you can't go after the refs after the game.
Yeah, the other thing was that I feel like in the past when Joe's had a little bit of an outburst, he gets rewarded for it. The Celtics will then get a couple foul calls going their way, and this was not that night. After that outburst, there were a couple plays. Porzingis, I thought, got fouled on one, and just ticky-tack things, but you certainly didn't see them do themselves any favors with the whistle, so we'll see. I mean, I don't think that this has really been a recurring problem for this team, but it was something that was almost seeming like an advantage, the way that Joe was kind of manipulating the officials earlier this season. There were a couple of games that you could actually point to it as being a good thing, and tonight I think you saw the reality that you can't really, it's not going to, over the course of a season, it's probably not going to benefit you.
Yeah, and they're going to play the Bulls again in short order here. We'll see what kind of carryover there is from the finish here. Some lineup questions, too, going into the next game if Sam Hauser can't go again. We'll talk about that. And for Noah Dalzell, who's going to be in Chicago, follow along with her for that game on Saturday. I'm Bobby Manning, and the Bulls beat the Celtics here, 117-108. Hey, Bobby Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.